to hand the conference over to Mr. M. Satish Choudhury. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to all of you. I am M. Satish Choudhury, Company Secretary and Chief Investor Relations Officer of Divi's Laboratories Limited. I welcome you all to the earnings call of the company for the quarter ended 30th June 2021. From Divi's Labs, we have with us today Dr. Murali K. Divi, Managing Director, Dr. Kiran S. Divi, Whole-Time Director and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. L. Kishore Babu, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Venkatesha Perumallu, General Manager, Finance and Accounts. During the day, our board has approved results for the quarter ended 30th June 2021. And we have released the same to the stock exchanges as well as updated the same in our website. Please note that this conference call is being recorded and a transcript of the same will be made available on the website of the company. Please also note that audio of the conference call is the copyright material of Divi's Laboratories Limited and cannot be copied, rebroadcasted or attributed in press or media without the specific and written consent of the company. Let me draw your attention to the fact that on this call, our discussion will include certain forward-looking statements, which are predictions, projections, or other estimates about future events. The estimates reflect management's current expectations of the future performance of the company. Please note that these estimates involve several risks and uncertainties that could cause our actual results to differ materially from what is expressed or implied. Divi's Labs or its officials does not undertake any obligation to publicly update any forward-looking statement, whether as a result of future events or otherwise. Now I hand over the conference to Dr. Murali K. Divi, Managing Director, for opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for joining us on our Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. I hope that all of you, your families and friends are in good health and keeping safe during this pandemic. The health crisis and effects caused by the second wave COVID-19 pandemic have been immensely challenging for each one of us. However, with a threat of potential third wave around the corner, based on predictions from various health organizations, along with rising cases in various other countries, it's very important that all of us continue to be vigilant and responsible in the next couple of months. Having said this, we at Divi's are highly committed to safeguarding the health and well-being of our employees and their families. As a part of our focus on the same, we conducted vaccination drives and got most of our employees and their immediate families vaccinated, as we believe that vaccination is possibly the best way to imbibe a sense of support and confidence in fighting COVID-19. Moving on to our operational efficiencies, the company has put in place several measures to ensure business continuity with uninterrupted production and supplies to our customers, yet focusing on the ongoing expansion to create a steady supply platform. We have completed many of the expansion and debottlenecking activities planned during the quarter, with slight delay caused by the second wave. During the quarter, we have capitalized 268 crores. Most of it was for the fast track project and 579 crores of CWIP in projects, especially for creating capacities for new generic molecules, and validations for these new generics are progressing very well. Second stream for the new fast track project is validated in DCV SEZ and is now producing commercial quantities. Third stream for the new fast track project is completed at Unit 1, validated and ready to supply API to VL partners. Being at the forefront of pharmaceutical industry, we have been contributing to fight pandemic since day one and continue to do our part in helping communities around our manufacturing units. Support has been provided to government hospitals, quarantine centers, and community healthcare centers in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana states by providing 1,200 oxygen cylinders and 100 oxygen concentrators. Support has been provided for COVID testing and vaccination drives in villages around our manufacturing units. In addition to these initiatives, we have also converted 2 of our nitrogen plants to oxygen plants and installed them in hospitals in Hyderabad and in Vizag. Considering the scarcity of the same, we have also taken up several initiatives towards child empowerment, including provision of notebooks in schools. Approximately 110,000 saplings were planted along with employing 102 Vriksha Mitras, benefiting 75,000 people in 25 villages. We shall continue to manage our operations responsibly and create a positive impact around the communities we operate. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Kiran Divi. Hello and welcome to each and every one of you for the earnings call of Divi Laboratories to discuss the results for the quarter ending June of 2021. I hope that each one of you along with your family and friends are safe, considering the continued existence of COVID-19 pandemic. On the operational front, we are back to normal and operating at full capacity. Backward integration to basic chemicals for majority of our products helped us to minimize the supply risk and avoid production disruption. Significant increase in crude oil price over the past year has resulted in increase in solvent prices. On the logistic front, the existing concerns continue to increase and pose wide variety of challenges, including unavailability of containers, long sailing timelines, blank sailings, and exponential increase in freight costs. As an example, the current freight costs are at least 5 to 7 times higher compared to the pre-COVID levels and are expected to increase further, subjected to various factors such as crude oil prices and significant demand of containers. On the procurement side, there are slight hiccups in the incoming supply chain. However, we are able to mitigate most of these issues because of significant investments that we have made over the last 2 years towards backward integration to basic chemicals for most of our generic APIs, as well as geographically diversifying our supplier base. Moving to the financial performance for the first quarter of the year 21-22, we have achieved a consolidated income of 1,997 crores, reflecting a growth of 14% over the corresponding quarter of the previous year. Profit before tax for the quarter amounted to rupees 814 crores, a growth of 23%. Tax provision for the quarter came higher at 257 crores. We have earned a profit after tax of rupees 557 crores for the quarter. We have a forex gain of 19 crores for the quarter as against a forex gain of 5 crores during the corresponding quarter of last year. Exports for the quarter accounted to 89%. We continue to have normal business distribution across the regions. US and USA accounted to 71% of our revenue. Product mix for generic to custom synthesis is 50% and 50% of the revenue respectively. Constant currency growth for the quarter has been 21%. Our nutraceutical business for the quarter amounted to rupees 138 crores. We have capitalized assets of rupees 270 crores during the quarter as of the end of the current period. We have cash on books of rupees 2,060 crores, receivables of rupees 1,897 crores, and inventories of rupees 2,383 crores. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With this, we would like to request the moderator to open lines for Q&A.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question-answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handset while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Prakash Agarwal from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
My first question, sir, is on the strong margin performance. So great job. What is leading to the strong margins? And the second part to that is, while we had a very, very strong growth last year on low base and with new capex coming up, how do we see the growth shaping up now?
The first one on the margin performance. I think there are several things we have taken up in the last 1 year, investing 2,500 crores in backward integration, in new technology, introducing new technologies, upgradation of plants, modern mechanization, and improving the process, revisiting the processes and improving the yields. I think these are some of the things that cause a positive benefit with green chemistry, and I think those are the main ones. And always revisiting, as I said earlier, is there a better way of doing it? If not, so why don't we do it? So the constant revisiting caused the good margins. If we were happy with whatever process we developed 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I think it's very difficult with the challenging market to maintain the profits margins.
Okay.
Now, the second one you asked is about how do you see the growth? I think I used to mention always, I have a dream, I want to fulfill the dream, and I'm sure I would like you also to continue dreaming about. My dreams are unlimited. So I sleep good, but dreams are unlimited. What I can say is that we can say 10 to 15% growth is definitive, and the long term probably it will be better.
Okay. And sir, the margin points that you mentioned, 3-4 points of backward integration, new technology, all these are sustainable points, right? So what I understood is there is no one-off element of higher pricing or one-off element of shortage opportunities, or given the market conditions, these are also there, is what I wanted to. So how much of this is sustainable of 40 to 43% kind of margins, which is very good?
I think you have been seeing in the last few quarters, the margins are getting better and better. It's not one-up. It's not just, we think they are sustainable, and we always have new projects coming. In the custom synthesis or generic, whenever new products come, the margins can be slightly higher. But overall, I have been saying from the beginning, we have good margins both in generic and custom synthesis. Sometimes there are more margins in generic, sometimes there are more margins in custom synthesis in few projects. But we need to say the distribution is good. Right now it is 50-50 between generic and custom synthesis. So that will give you more assurance that the profitability probably can be maintained at these levels.
Perfect. That is great. Thank you. I'll join back with you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Tushar Manudhane from Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So just on the fast track project, so any of the contribution in this quarter, or would that be more 2Q onwards in terms of revenue?
We have shipped commercial quantities to for the fast track project at this point, and there are two streams to meet the innovators' demand, and the commercial production is going on. We have also created a third stream for the innovators' real partners to take care of their demands.
Would you like to share the contribution of that project in the revenue?
I'm not at the liberty to say that.
And secondly,
yes, sorry. Please go ahead.
And secondly, just on, just asking again on while the long-term revenue target remains great, just that given the way FY21 had panned out, even on that base, 10 to 15% would be possible or more than that?
Looking at maybe Kiran can say better on the growth engines.
So we have developed about 6 growth engines, which we are working simultaneously. One, we have established generics, where we already have anywhere from 60 to 70% market share, and we believe that is growing at a 10% growth rate year on year. We are increasing capacities for several of our existing generic molecules, where we have 20 to 30% market share, and we believe with the dynamics and our sales team that we should be reaching the 60 to 70% over there over the next few years. Compared to the third one, which is our very interesting drive, is the sartans. We have a huge advantage because of the nitrosamine impurity with the way we can control it, and the azido impurity in the product, where we are venturing into all the sartans. We're already in large production for a few of the sartans, and we'll be getting into all of them, keeping us in a very unique position. The fourth growth engine is the contrast media, where we are already one of the large players. We have entered into the other segments of contrast media, where we are signing up with innovators and several big companies, and we believe in the next 2-3 years we should see good results. Our fifth one is the fifth growth engine is there are 2 big custom synthesis projects apart from the fast track, which are also in a very fast track right now, and we believe we will be seeing huge advantage over the next few years, and these are long-term contracts for the company in CS. Our sixth growth engine is our new generic projects, which we have selected for products which are expiring from the year 2023 all the way to 25. These are large volume or niche molecules which require very specific technologies, and we have already developed them, and we believe we should be in a good position once the patent expires.
That's really interesting. Just a last question on this sartan. So while we would have got good advantage in terms of the impurity part, but how is the pricing scenario playing out? Is that still making a good economic sense in terms of continuing to build up on this sartan as an opportunity?
So, like Dr. Divi has explained, we are quite strong in backward integration, where we have developed the basic raw materials for all the sartans, the starting materials for the sartans, unlike several players who are buying their intermediates from different vendors across the world. This gives us a huge cost advantage and also helps us in controlling our impurities. By doing this, we have not only achieved cost efficiency in sartans in general, because the starting material is almost similar for all the sartans. We also were able to control the azido and the nitro impurities, whereby we are one of the few companies in the world where FDA or EDQM had no objection with us with our files.
Thanks a lot for this, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from from the line of Surya Patra from PhillipCapital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, sir, and congrats for a good set of numbers. Can I get some sense about the portion of the projects which have already got or which has already started commercial activities out of our, let's say, the 1,200 crore kind of growth capex of last year and last one or 2 year, and the first track project which we were expecting to commission by first quarter of current financial year. Hello.
I think we have been talking about the investment of 2,500 crores since 2018, when our revenues were 5,000 crores, PBT was 1,800 crores, and PAT was 1,300 crores. That's when we started implementing these projects. And in 21, we reached 7,000 crores of revenue, with 2,627 crores of PBT and 1,954 crores of profit after tax. And it is still growing. We expect 10 to 15%. That is the growth rate we are seeing. Sometimes based on the product mix, based on the approvals, we still see good growth.
Okay. Okay, fine, sir. So given the large or the mega capex phase what we have just completed, so is it fair to believe, sir, large part of this new capacity additions contribution will be back-ended to some extent, let's say FY23 onwards or something like that, where the growth momentum could be much faster, or just like, could be like FY21 growth?
I think you also want to remember that investment was not only for expanding capacity, introduction of new products, the fast track projects, but also were, number one, for the backward integration, where China was almost controlling all the key raw materials, and we would have been out of business, or if we had continued to depend for our large volume generic on China. So even in the custom synthesis, we were told by the big pharma that they asked us to either manufacture or source from Europe or US. Some of this investment also has gone into the early blocks where we built in 1994 and 2002 at Unit 1 and 2. They have been upgraded to meet the current requirements of USFDA, the regulatory bodies.
Okay. Sir, one interesting thing what I'm finding in the quarterly numbers is the cost saving on the other expenses front, what we are witnessing this quarter. See, despite of the challenges, like what you just mentioned, that multiplying jump in the logistic cost or the, let's say, the container cost, and possible some impact of the COVID during the peak period what we have just encountered this quarter, and hence according additional spend that we would have done. And also there are multiple new projects which are in the various stages of implementation. So despite all that, we have seen a kind of meaningful saving in the other expenses sequentially. So how should we think going ahead, despite of all this challenge, if we are doing this? So is it a continuous phenomena in terms of improved efficiency in terms of cost?
I think here you should not be looked at. Of course, we are not a young company with low overhead. I wouldn't say that. We have employees who have already completed 20-25 years with a decent salary. So still we are able to maintain low overheads because of the revisiting of the factories, controlling energies, high efficiency motors, and multiple investments we have done to keep the energy cost low, to the manpower low, and that's how we are able to control them between anywhere from 20-25% compared to various other pharma companies going up to 50-55% of other expenses. One, we don't have any financial expenditure interest. We are able to take fresh graduates from the university at the starting salaries and adding them and letting them grow their knowledge as well as identify themselves with the company. So as a result, they are developed a culture having an attachment with the company, and that's how we are able to maintain the low overheads.
Okay. Sure, sir. Just one clarification, sir. See, this logistic cost or the container cost, is it that adjusted from the top line itself while reporting in the PL?
No, it's not adjusted from the top line.
This is part of other expenses.
That is correct.
Sure, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants, please limit your question to 2 per participants only. You may rejoin the question queue if you have a follow-up. The next question is from the line of Shyam Srinivasan from Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for taking my question. The first one is on the molnupiravir.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request you to please speak a bit louder? Your audio is not very audible.
Sure. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my question. The first one is on the molnupiravir opportunity. So Stream 1 and Stream 2, I think you said it's been commercialized, and Stream 3 is for the VLs. So I was just looking through the disclosure from Merck and the agreement that they have with the US government for about 1.7 million treatments. This is obviously contingent on them getting an EUA. So from a contribution or a significance to our perspective, given we will be one of the bigger suppliers to them, how should we look at this as an opportunity? And if I look at the number this quarter, if you said 50% is coming from custom synthesis. So just trying to add, try and tie these two things together. Once phase 3 trials are over for molnupiravir, and if let's assume they get an approval, do you think the quantities could further ramp up?
Hi. Molnupiravir, I'm sure whatever you have read is what is publicly disclosed by Merck. But at this point, because we are bound by confidentiality, we cannot talk about their volumes or numbers or their future projections.
Sure. Dr. Kiran, just want to understand the direction. I'm not looking for specific numbers, but would we be a large player in that space if and when things are, start increasing? Because I'm sure they are not supplying 1.7 million treatment courses even on a monthly basis. So I'm just curious to understand, are we directionally aligned to that? That's the point.
We are one of the large suppliers for the product. And the total thing, whether the product, when it will get launched and what is the innovator's idea would, predominantly depend on their phase 3 clinical trials.
Fair enough. But Dr. Kiran, it's a take or pay, right? Once they get approval, it means the US will buy the entire thing. Doesn't matter whether there's an actual demand also.
There is nothing like buying the entire thing. It's as and when made, we are shipping the product, and we get paid.
Got it. Second question, Dr. Murali, is on the API or the 50% of the business, including nutraceuticals. So we have seen, I think, a YOY decline, and I don't think it's unique to you. I think many of the other companies have also seen some kind of a decline for the quarter, YOY, some of them QOQ. So just want your thoughts on the general generic API space. I know you have said in the past that don't look at quarterly, but is there some of the euphoria around generic API last year? Do you think that has died down a bit? Or you still think, given the 6 levers of growth that you're talking about, there is still scope to grow even the generic APIs? Thank you.
So I will answer this. So it is very difficult for us because of the product mix on quarter on quarter. Sometimes the CS business goes up, sometimes based on the sales, sometimes the generic volume goes up. As such, we have not seen any drop either from our customers worldwide or the demand has not gone down. It's just a product mix and what has been shipped out at this time.
Got it. And last question, if I may, is on the raw material imports. It's now come down as per your annual report to 44%. So been a big significant, reduction from I think 50+%. So is there more levers to go just on the backward integration, going back to basic chemicals? Do you think we can further reduce dependence on imports?
You are right that the dependency, we wanted to bring it down. That's why we started making the investment year and a half ago. It's true that the more we concentrate on those and as we produce them continuously, we'll get and probably a better grip on the.
Got it, sir. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Agarwal from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Sir, on the business, you mentioned about one of the growth levers being the contrast media business. So from where the business is today to over the next 2-3 years, the growth that we're really talking about, what will be the primary drivers of growth in the business? Is it largely going to be contract manufacturing, a custom synthesis driven growth, or there are opportunities in the generic space in the contrast media business?
Could you please repeat your question? You're not clear, please.
I think on the contrast media business, the growth is going to be driven by the custom synthesis opportunities, or it's going to be more about generic products, we making inroads the generic products in contrast media?
I think Kiran has made it, I think, very clear in the previous, but I'll reply that we are already in the contrast media making products, and we are becoming stronger based on the technology we developed by consuming and saving the iodine, being able to recycle. That is the key to these contrast media. Having been successful, now yes, one of the big products we are entering with the big pharma in the custom synthesis. That's what Kiran said earlier. Yes, it is true. So the growth is coming from both engines, the custom synthesis engine for a contrast media project, as well as the existing generic APIs of contrast media. And as overall, when you see, your iodine efficiency will go much better.
Okay. So one housekeeping question, what will be the sales of the nutraceutical business this quarter, sir?
I think nutraceutical business, we cannot go by quarter on quarter. It's about 600 crores. We have projected in a year, and the growth is about 10% to 15%. And I think in these COVID times, people are trying to see how to have immunity boosters, and I think going forward, we expect the nutraceutical business to grow better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Damayanti Kerai from HSBC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is on supply status to the regulated market from the added capacities. So are we supplying to US and Europe from the expanded capacities? And continuation of that, what is the status of Kakinada plant?
Sure, thank you. Answering your question, our supply to US and Europe is about 71% of the total sales, and this is across both generic and custom synthesis products, both to the US and EU market.
Sir, my question was whether from the added brownfield capacities, have you started supplies to regulated market? Because I understand we are already supplying to non-regulated market, but for regulated market, we are looking for some validation, completion and all. So that was my question.
So the validations have been completed for the brownfield project of DCSEZ and DCV. The qualifications have gone through and this quarter it has commercialized about 20% of the sales. Over the next quarter, once all regulatory approvals are in place, we should see a good growth in those SEZs.
Okay. Sir, on Kakinada, how are you placed?
So with reference to Kakinada, all cases by the landowners were dismissed by the High Court. The state government has fixed the land cost, for which we have already paid the full amount. We think in this month the APIC should be handing over the 500 acres of land to us. All statutory compliances are in place, so maybe by next month we should be in a better shape to start activities.
Okay, so my second question, quickly on operating cost, like we already discussed, but in view of rising costs for freight, logistic, and you mentioned some price pressure on solvents, for next few quarters, are we expecting, I'll say, higher level of expenses to go, or do you think you'll be able to mitigate so that broadly we can maintain our current quarter performance?
The product mix, based on quarter to quarter, it will change. So, high volume of solvents, some will use low, some are airship, some are sea ship. So it's very difficult to say quarter on quarter, what the other cost would be. So as of now, we would take a comfortable 27%, 25 to 27% as our other fixed costs.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for your answers. I'll get back in the queue.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Alankar Garude from Macquarie. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, sir, for sharing details on the growth engines. So my first question is on custom synthesis X of the molnupiravir opportunity. Had we faced any COVID-linked challenges at all over the past 1 year, like say slower clinical trial activity or slower new deal wins, which could potentially ease out going forward?
We did not see any slowing down on that activity. In fact, you may have noticed that there are several follow-up molecules coming from the Roche, ATF Pharmaceuticals, AT527, Opaganib from the Red Hill, the Shionogi is coming with the product, Pfizer PF07321332. These are all in the following the molnupiravir products coming up. So there are a lot of opportunities in these segments, and people are pretty much that we may have to live for a few more years with our friendly COVID-19, looks like, and which probably just vaccination is not enough because of its changing of the spikes. So a API like molnupiravir or the other APIs I mentioned coming up from various other big pharmas, these are all, the good thing is these are all small molecules. That means we have greatest opportunity. But the biologics is different. So it is in the same field where we are in, and I think they all are going in the right direction. There's no slowdown on this.
Understood, sir. Sir, and in general, if you look at the generic API space, there have been a lot of expectations from the Indian industry, especially over the last couple of years. Being the industry leader, where do you think the industry is heading towards over the next 3 to 5 years? And what would be your expectations from the government to help support the growth?
Well, everybody wants everything free and the government is ready to give. I don't believe that. But I think what wins is the technology. If you are good in technology, I think sky is the limit. Because as there are more people that could afford the medicines in the underdeveloped and developing countries, I think there will be more usage. But the question is, I think, the challenge is that are you implementing the new technologies? Like we are implementing in flow reactors, gaseous phase reactors, tubular reactors, vapor phase mixed beds. These are all the things and analytical tools like Orbitrap which can detect parts per trillion. No, there are only either FDA and us, we have such instruments, and having the most modern waste treatment plants. I think these are all, you need to invest for the next 5-10 years. It's not just enough trying to develop a process and introduce generic API quickly. I think there is still very good opportunity for companies to grow in generic APIs. As Kiran said, the sixth growth engine is a $23 billion, $20 billion APIs going out of patent in 23-24, for which we have developed technologies and are validating and will be filing soon. So I think if you invest in technologies, if you invest in new plants, I think there is good scope, good opportunity.
Thank you, sir. And one small bookkeeping question. Any reason for the high tax rate in this quarter?
Tax rate.
We always pay tax. We were never a zero taxpayer. It's good to pay tax, in my opinion, because it helps the government to run. Some of the opportunities we had made them in the SEZ where there are no benefits, and now going forward, all those products will be made, as Kiran said, in the DCV and the DC SEZ. So the coming quarters, the tax rate should come down to below 25%. And probably at the end of the year, we expect it will be below 25.
Understood, sir. That's helpful. Thanks and all the best.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants to please limit your question to 2 per participants only. The next question is from the line of Param Prateek from Choice Investment Broking. Please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question and congratulations on a very good set of numbers. Most of my questions are answered. I just had one question. You said that the mix of custom synthesis and generics is now 50-50. So going forward, can we expect that custom synthesis will contribute more to the revenue and likewise will contribute higher to the EBITDA margin?
It is difficult to go quarter on quarter, as you know, as the product mix is very, very important. Sometimes the generic products will go in larger volumes, and sometimes the custom synthesis will also go in larger volumes. So this quarter it has been 50-50. Like you've seen in the previous quarter, it has been 60-40. So it will always vary.
Okay. Okay. And sir, can you just guide us on the capex front, especially on the incremental capex over a period of next 2 years?
We have mentioned that now the capital work CWIP is about 500 crores, and we think we will be able to. We need to spend another 300 crores as a capex, immediate capex in the year, and Kakinada plant was projected to be 600 crores, this about 3 years ago. So we need to relook at the products we planned and what the project cost would be. So in the next 2-3 years, probably we should be having, based on the Kakinada and Krishnapatnam projects, it can be anywhere from 1,000 crores to 2,000 crores.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Sheth from Quest Investment. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on good set of numbers. Sir, in Mr. Kiran Divi elaborated the 6 growth engine. So can you throw some light whether the existing infrastructure will be able to meet all those growth engines, or we will need to again go for a substantial capex to take care of the top line and the opportunity which Mr. Divi said coming in from 23, 24 onward. So how do we really see from 5 years onward our capex plan?
Okay, I think what Kiran Divi said, V6 6-engine growth. The first engine, the generics, is already invested. The second engine, the generic capacity increase from 20% to 60% is already invested. The certain investment is going on in the CWIP now, where we have another 500 crores CWIP. It will be completed. And the contrast media investment, it is also the parts of the CWIP going on right now. And the new generics, which will go out of patent in 2023, the investment is already happening now. So the 6-engine growth, when we complete this CWIP, we should be already invested for that growth. The Kakinada growth, the investment where I said 1,000 to 2,000 crores is for other products outside the 6 engines.
Okay. And sir, do we have any plan to take peptide business substantially high from this level? Since last few years, we have been ranging around 500, 600 and slowly growing. So do we have what kind of ambition do we have for this peptide business?
Peptide, I'm sorry, did you say peptide business?
Oh, sorry, nutraceutical, sir.
Yeah. I was wondering because I was a dreamer of peptide business. I was the first one in India who made protected amino acids, who made the dipeptide, tripeptide, and for a T20 project out of Roche. So I was really dreaming at that time. The dream did not come true. It's okay. But now the nutraceutical, we have expanded 100% capacity, and we are geared up to supply. We are at 600 crores, as we mentioned earlier, growing at the rate of 10-15% year on growth we anticipate. It could be higher based on this COVID and other pandemics. People are more into nutraceutical. So we may expect a further growth, but we are being conservative, and it's about, we think 600 crores with a growth of 10% to 15%.
Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ritika Agarwal from ValueQuest. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon to everyone. So my question is on Molnupiravir API. I wanted to check if we are fully backward integrated in this API.
Well, there are key challenges for other companies in this on the production. So we are fully backward integrated. We have developed our own technology for the very base material, and yes, we are ready to. We do not have any issues with our base materials.
Okay, sure, sir. Thank you so much. That's it from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saion Mukherjee from Nomura. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. Sir, my first question is on, your comment suggests that there's a concerted effort to, increase vertical integration and lower the dependence on China. I just wanted to understand, sir, where we are in that path, how much we have achieved, and how has dependence on China gone down, if you can share some numbers over the last, say, 4 or 5 years?
We just started this 2 years ago, going through the backward integration. As you know, China has very large basic chemical manufacturing, and the pharmaceutical companies have been importing both API, advanced intermediates, starting materials, and the base materials. As a result, I think several of the countries as well as India forgot how to make the key starting materials and the base chemistry. So this is when we identified 2-3 years ago that we should be producing our own key raw materials for our big products like naproxen, gabapentin, dextromethorphan and other products. So we have invested substantially, and now we are totally free for our large volume generic APIs, no dependency on starting materials. And also for where we are still sourcing some raw materials from China, we have identified alternate sources from Europe, US, and we are buying some percentage of quantity to maintain continuity of purchase from the European and US sources.
Okay. Sir, on sartans, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, so your current revenue contribution is not much, right? And, how large is the API sartan market today globally?
We have a decent share in the sartan market right now, on the generic side of the business. And with our technology, what we have developed and backward integration of the key starting material, we are now entering into other sartans, and we feel we'll have a good share in the market.
Okay. So, I mean, it is lower than, for large molecules like we have 60-70% market share. It's lower than that at this point for sartan.
At this point, yes, it is lower than. That is the right word to say.
Okay. Okay. And sir, finally, I know you talked about, upcoming generic expiries. You also mentioned that you're in the process of filing. But, sir, for products which are going off patent in 23-24, filings have already been made. So how should we think about, is it from a longer term perspective, these are the molecules where you will gain market share and you may not be participating in the first wave as such?
So, Divi's strategy has always been, we file a product with one of the best processes available. So we can file quickly with a very high cost process, or we can look at the long term and play a longer game. So for us, we have two goals. One is we look for the most efficient process, green chemistry, and look at atom-to-atom efficiency and see the best process available. The second thing is we do not do any paraforce. We do not challenge any innovator. So we wait till the product expires, and then we launch the product. Typical example, if you look at our history, either with gabapentin or naproxen sodium, dextromethorphan, all these products, some of them we were the 20th one to enter into the market, but we became 60 to 70% market share leaders. All this comes over, goodwill, consistency. Our process helps us to do this. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankit Agarwal from UTI Mutual Fund. Ankit Agarwal, your line is open. Please go ahead with your question. So this printing costs are not using Ms. Ankit Agarwal from UTI Mutual Fund, you may please go ahead with your question. As there's no response from the current participant, we take the next question from the line of Sonia Lalwani from Stanford House Advisors. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. So this one is on the capex. So I understand that a lot of amount, 2,500 crores, has been spent on capex since last 3 years. So if you could give us some sense, a part of the question you already answered, but if you can give us some sense on what is the capacity utilization and how much have the capacities increased over the past years?
It's very difficult to say because when you say we have a million liter capacity, we'll have large capacity unutilized, 15 to 20%. But if you take product-wise, probably some of the products we are producing at 80 to 95% capacity, and some of them we have only utilizing 50% capacity because one, we are reaching the market, two, the customers are slowly taking our product while they have to switch from another supplier. So you can say on an average about 80% of the capacity of the plant is occupied, you can say.
Understood. And also, just one clarification, you said you will be spending around 1,000 crores incremental capex in the coming years, like in next 1 or 2 years.
So this investment would be predominantly towards Kakinada and Krishnapatnam Port. Both are virgin sites, greenfield projects. So once we get government approvals and all statutory approvals which are already in place, once everything is there, we will then, based on the product mix and opportunities, we will start investing.
Understood. And sir, one just so when you spoke about 6 growth engines, can you elaborate a bit on the third growth engine that you spoke about, nitro impurities control, and what is this exactly, and what is the strategic value of this engine?
You may recall that 2.5, 3 years ago, the FDA has come out quite strong that there is a nitrosamine impurity in the sartans, and because of that, several companies got into trouble. When they did that, they are called azido impurities. And these impurities, when FDA came and audited us, they could not find those impurities in our process because the way we developed the process, they are not formed. This technology, what we use for sartans, gave us an opportunity to enter into some of the big farmers for their supply, as well as gave opportunities, as Kiran said, why not we make new sartans where we were not even present at this moment. So those are the ones that the capacity is getting created, and we should be introducing them during the coming year, both validation and commercial quantities. The advantage are twofold. All the sartans start from a starting material called OTBN, ortho-toluylbentonitrile. We make in-house. We have developed that technology. So from there, all the sartans, by controlling the impurity, we can produce. So the leadership what we have in one sartan is giving the benefit of entering into several sartans. That's what Kiran said.
Understood, sir. Understood. That's helpful. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Nitin Koshar from Invesco Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. So one question, was looking at the previous con call and around the second quarter FY21, we did mention that the transition of revenue share between CSM and generic will shift more towards 60% for CSM in engine and eventually will settle down at 50%. At this juncture, have we settled down at 50-50 or this shift towards 60 is yet to play out in CSM?
It is very difficult to say. See, the control is not, the switch is not in my hand. The switch is in the customer's hand. We are creating capacities to increase both for generic products as well as custom synthesis products. And we prefer maintaining 50-50. At the same time, it may so happen, we always say it is either 40-60 or 60-40. Depending upon the quarter-on-quarter or year-on-year, it may range in that 40-60, 60-40. But I would like to emphasize once again, we should not say profitability is more in generic or more in custom synthesis. We think that both are profitable depending upon which API or which project we are talking about.
Fair point. But at today's juncture, we should keep ourselves in terms of direction understanding. We should keep ourselves open to seeing 60% as a possibility in Inchin. Would that still be a consideration, or we should settle down at 50-50 from trajectory perspective?
The opportunity, the wishfulness is that yes, we want to maintain more profitability. There is no doubt about that. The question is, we take all the opportunities both from generic as well as custom synthesis, which if you maintain flexibility, that will be better for the sustainable future.
Right, sir. Thanks for this answer and all the best, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Satish Choudhury for closing comments. Over to you.
Thank you all for joining us today for the earnings call of Divi's Laboratories Limited. In case you need any further clarification, please reach out to our investor relations. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Divi's Laboratories Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you all for joining. You may now disconnect your lines.